good, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Today I've got another NBA commentary video, and I want to look at the top 10 NBA players under the age of 25. Now, before I get into this, I do want to preface, obviously this is my opinion. I could have left a player off that you think should be on here, and I do have one honorable mention that I kind of debated, but I ended up not putting him on the list. And also, if you disagree with the order of my list, go ahead and comment down below. I would love to hear y'all's list. I am always open to changing my opinion and having a debate with you guys in the comments, or just agreeing to disagree. There's no reason for any hate in this video. I just wanted to talk to you guys about who, in my opinion, are the top 10 NBA players under the age of 25. And before we get into my 10 list, let's talk about my honorable mention. De'Aaron Fox was a guy that was right on the edge of my top 10 list. I was thinking, putting him in there. He's been a good point guard for his entire career. It looked like for a few years there he might even become a great point guard, but he's never really taken that leap. He has developed his three-point shooting a good bit during his career. He's got better at it. He's gotten a little better at driving defensively, all of the around stuff. But I just, at the end of the day, could not find a way to put him over the next 10 guys. So, Kings fans, I respect your starting point guard. I think he's a really good guard. But at the end of the day, he missed this top 10 list. And now with that out of the way, that was the only honorable mention. There were a few guys on there that were like role players or good starters that I just couldn't bring myself to include in this list. And with that in mind, let's get into the number 10 spot, and one of two Grizzlies on this list. You already know who this is going to be. Desmond Bane sitting here at number 10. Now, you might think this is a little high for Desmond Bane, but at just 24 years old, this man has averaged 18 points, 4.5 rebounds, 3 assists, and a very good shooting efficiency. Last year, he shot 43% from 3 and about 46% from the field. Desmond Bane obviously played a key role in the Grizzlies' playoff run last year, and in my opinion, he looked at times to be a better all-around player than star guard Ja Morant. He allowed the Grizzlies to win a ton of games, even with Ja Morant injured. Obviously, that one playoff game, Ja Morant was hurt. They still won that game by a lot. Unfortunately, they went on to lose the next game to the Warriors, but Desmond Bane is just an all-around good offensive and defensive guard. He's a little shorter at 6'5", but he still is tall enough to be a solid NBA shooting guard. His defense is good. He plays with hard work and effort, and at the end of the day, guy is super strong. One of the biggest rookies we've ever seen come into the league. That guy is a very, very strong person coming out of TCU, and he has shown that in the league. That's why he's sitting at this number 10 spot. But at number 9, now I really debated this one. This one's just a little controversial compared to Desmond Bane and De'Aaron Fox. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander sits here at the 9th spot. Now, Shai obviously, in my opinion, has all the potential in the world to become a multi-time all-star point guard. He's 6'6", he's taller for that position. He averaged 24 points per game last year, 5 rebounds per game, 6 assists on decent shooting efficiency. He's never really gotten his three-point shot to come out consistently, only shooting 30% last year. But if he can return to the year before where he shot 42%, that's a little bit different. Granted, he did only play 35 games 2 years ago in 2020. At the end of the day, I'm a big Shai fan, but I kind of have to limit myself from being, very optimistic about him, because we haven't seen him play an entire season since his rookie year. Whether injuries or the Thunder just being so bad they want to sit him, Shai always seems to find himself on the bench. And while I think he could become one of the better guards in the NBA maybe 5-6 years down the road once he hits his prime, I think right now he is very much limited by how good the team around him is, and I hope one day soon the Thunder can actually be good. Unfortunately, Chet Holmgren got injured, so looks like this year's probably going to be much of the same. But at the end of the day, I think Shai, if he leaves town or the Thunder end up being good, this guy's going to be a great point guard in the NBA. He's already shown flashes, and in my opinion, that's good enough to put him at this number 9 spot, but not good enough to take him over the 8th man on this list, which is Brandon Ingram. Now, Brandon Ingram was a guy I was scrolling. I went past him a few times, and I had compiled 9 people on this list. I just felt like I was missing somebody, and that ended up being Brandon Ingram. Brandon Ingram, obviously a New Orleans Pelican, drafted by the Lakers in 2016 with the 2nd overall pick. For a while there, he struggled to really get his footing, playing with LeBron, playing on really bad teams, took a lot of work and a lot of effort, and he just wasn't quite there yet. But ever since being traded to New Orleans in 2019, Ingram has gotten to that level. 22.7 points per game last year, 6 rebounds, 6 assists on decent shooting efficiency. He could really improve that three-point shot, 32.7%, a career low besides his rookie year, which was 29% from three. So he's never been quite the efficient or high volume three-point shooter. He only takes about 4 a game, considering last year. Before that, he was taking about 6 a game, but at the end of the day, you're not really using him to take a ton of three-point shots, and he can create his shot at a relatively high level. And with the team around him, CJ McCollum, is a guy that can create, and a teammate that will be on this list later, Zion Williamson, is obviously a guy that, in my opinion, is one of the better creators in the NBA when he's healthy and on the floor. Brandon Ingram fits his role perfectly. He can continue to get better, but if he stays where he's at right now, I think 8 is a pretty good spot to put him at in the top 25 or top 10 players under 25 in the NBA. And technically, he's not under 25. He is 25, so I might want to name it 25 and under, but that's a discussion for a different part of the video. And now we're going to get into what the 6th or 7th player on this list, Bam Adebayo. Now, I'm not the biggest fan of Bam Adebayo. Obviously, I'm not a big Heat fan because of what they did to us in the bubble a few years ago. Now, I can respect him. I love PJ Tucker, and he was a Heat fan last year, so I found myself rooting for them, especially against the Celtics. And Bam plays his role very well. Kind of like a Draymond Green role. 19 points per game, 10 rebounds per game, 3.5 assists, and he's just better offensively than Draymond, but defensively he's there. Rebounding wise, he's there. He's a good rebounder. He's a great playmaker for the center position. He doesn't always put up a ton of assists, but he is still he's gonna make the right pass. He's gonna make the right read. And while he can't shoot threes, I think that's one thing that's holding him back from being above the guy that's next on this list. I think Bam Adebayo, he supplies his role, he plays his role well, and he gives the Heat another tier or another offensive or defensive threat and offensive weapon. Personally, if he could develop that three-point game, I think the Heat would definitely be better, but that's not something he has to do for them to become to continue to be a finals contending team. But instead, at the 6th position, Mr. DeAndre Ayton, Mr. Supermax himself. Unfortunately, he is not on the Pacers. I can't stand what the Suns did to this guy. He has been playing lights out the last few years. 17 points per game, 10 rebounds per game, 1.5 assists per game. And, he's a different type of center from Bam Adebayo. I think a lot of people would probably put Bam over DeAndre Ayton just because of the role he plays, but I think it depends really on the team you find yourself on. Obviously, for the Suns, they've got playmakers, so that is a little bit of a better situation for DeAndre Ayton, but for the Heat, Kyle Lowry is not as good as he used to be. They need another playmaker, so Bam Adebayo fits that Heat culture much, much more. But at the end of the day, it really came down to the three-point shooting. Coming into the league, DeAndre Ayton could not shoot threes at all, and while he's not a amazing three-point shooter this last year, he didn't shoot them at all in high volumes. He still averaged a pretty decent amount of threes on about 37% per game. So he's already improved coming into the league, and obviously this offseason, everybody knew the value DeAndre Ayton had with the contract frenzy. A lot of people wanted to sign him, to max contracts and stuff, and I kind of wish the Suns would not have been able to keep him, but now, after struggling a little bit and looking a little disappointing compared to Luka and Trey back after the 2018 draft, DeAndre Ayton definitely looks like he's worth the #1 overall pick, and that's where we get away from the guys who I don't think are superstars. I think the rest of the guys on this list are, they can be that guy on the NBA team, and most of them have already proven that. Unfortunately, a few of them up here, or one of them in particular, has struggled with weight and injuries, and we'll get there when we get there. But at the 5th position in the final 5 players, Ja Morant is sitting here. Now, I was debating putting him higher, but I just couldn't, put him over the next 5 or next 4 guys. I think they just all have a slight edge over Ja Morant, and it's hard to put Ja much higher on this list considering how well the Grizzlies did without them, or without him on the court. They actually did better when he was injured. I know a lot of people see that statistic over and over again, but I just find that crazy to believe that the best player on an NBA team his team is worse when he's on the court. At the end of the day, that's not anything to knock Ja Morant, though. 27 points per game, 6 rebounds, 7 assists per game. Still struggles from the three-point land, 34% on about 5 attempts last year, but he did shoot 50% from the field. Obviously, a decent efficiency there. Wish he would get that three-point shot up a little bit, but, you know, he's such a prolific driver and just so athletic. He reminds me of a prime D Rose, as a lot of people say. I think Ja Morant is, you know, he's going to continue to grow. He's going to be one of the better point guards in the NBA in a few years, and he already is, but he's going to be one of the better point guards going into the future. Unfortunately, there's just a lot of talent in the NBA, and that's why at number 4, I have Mr. Pizza Man himself, Big Mac Zion Williamson at 27 points per game, 7.2 rebounds, and 4 assists just 2 years ago now in his rookie season. Unfortunately for us, we didn't really get to see him play much last year. You know, he ended up playing a little bit at the end of the season, I believe. I think he did. Don't quote me on that, but I thought he did, but he may not have. You know, he struggled with his weight, he struggled with injuries, and when you're a big guy like Zion, that's going to be something you struggle with no matter what. Unfortunately for the Pelicans, something that he's continued to struggle with since he came into the league, and I hope he can kind of get that right and get that settled down. And, you know, this Pelicans team has all kinds of potential. They've got 4 elite scorers in Valanciunas, Zion, CJ McCollum, and Brandon Ingram, and they have an opportunity to be a really, really good NBA team if Zion can get back on the court. Last time we saw him out there, he was averaging those numbers with very efficient shooting. So at the end of the day, I think Zion has potential to be one of the best players in the NBA, and that's why he was drafted number 1 overall last year. Or when he was playing in his rookie year, he shot 61%, 29% from 3. Unfortunately, not the greatest three-point shooter, but that can be improved. That can be worked on to get him up to, you know, 30, 35%, somewhere in a decent average range. But at the end of the day, I had to limit him to number 3. Yes, I think he could be the second, probably. Arguably, you could argue the first best player on this list, but with the injuries and stuff, you got to take that into account. I didn't want to put him over the guys that have been healthier more across their careers. And now we get into the final 3. These guys have really solidified themselves as superstars on their respective rosters. They've really solidified themselves as the number 1, you know, the number 1 options on every team they've been on. I say every team, or every team they're on. None of them have changed teams since they've been drafted. But at number 3, we have Mr. Lollipop Hair himself, Trae Young for the Atlanta Hawks. Now, I'm very excited to see how they play this year, getting DeJounte Murray, bringing that defensive-minded guard beside a very, very offensive-heavy point guard in Trae Young. We'll have to see how they mesh together. Maybe it's going to be a good experience for both of those guys, and this team could be really good, especially with another guy that I, you know, contemplated putting on this list, and John Collins. At the end of the day, I decided not to, but Trae Young, 28 points per game, 3.7 rebounds per game, about 10 assists per game last year. He shot 38% from 3, which is a career high last year on a career, you know, 8 attempts per game. His career high is 9.5 attempts per game back in the 2019 season. So he's a little lower of a volume there, but still a good amount of three-point attempts, 46% from the field, and he's led this Hawks team. Obviously, disappointing year last year. The year before that, they beat the Knicks in the playoffs, and it looks pretty good going into this season. Last year was disappointing. They had a good bit of injuries. DeAndre Hunter goes down, but Clint Capella is still there. John Collins is still there. Trae Young is still there. DeAndre Hunter is still there. Kevin Huerter's gone, but they've brought in other pieces. Very excited for this team with DeJounte Murray, and Trae Young is only going to continue to be better, or at least at the level he's at right now. And I think that basically is enough to suffice the number 3 spot, especially with the guys over him. I think these next 2 guys are in a league of their own. And at number 2, gonna be argue here with you Boston Celtics fans, and you better be glad I put him up. No, I'm just kidding. I don't like the Boston Celtics that much, but I respect Jason Tatum at number 2. 27 points per game, 8 rebounds per game, and a 4.5 assists per game. Obviously, this kind of is propelled after a rough start last year. They go on that massive run to end the season, and then a finals run that nobody saw coming. Just a great playoff experience for Jason Tatum. He had the finals, or the conference finals, early in his career where he went head-to-head with LeBron. Jason Tatum has always been that guy in Boston, in my opinion. Don't know why they would ever fathom breaking up him and Jaylen Brown. They help each other out so much. Did struggle a little bit in the finals and a couple series there in the playoffs. Struggled to stay consistent and get the Celtics, quality minutes all the time. But at the end of the day, obviously he's very good. They'll probably be back with the improvements they made, and that's why I put Jason Tatum at the number 2 spot. And at number 1, I don't think this is very much discussion here. Luka Doncic, in my opinion, could win MVP this year. The guy has lost Jalen Brunson. The offense on the Mavericks has only gotten worse, and he already is averaging 28 points per game last year, 9 rebounds, and about 9 assists on very good shooting, 45% from the field and 35% from 3. I think Luka Doncic's numbers are only going to go up. He'll probably start averaging numbers like we see in 2K, where he's averaging like 80 points per game and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, don't know how great of a team they're going to be just because they lost Jalen Brunson, who was really vital to providing that second ball handler, second main scorer. But at the end of the day, Luka's still there. He's an MVP candidate this year. He's going to continue to get better. I love his grit and grind, and it's going to be interesting to see how good he can become this year. If he can lead the Mavericks to the playoffs with the roster they have, especially if Spencer Dinwiddie plays as bad as he did in the playoffs, I will be pleasantly surprised. Why would I say subscribe? I'm going to say subscribe to you guys later on, but why would I say that? But yeah, I'll be pleasantly surprised if Luka can lead the Mavs all the way to the conference finals or even farther again. But he still is going to be number 1 on this list, and that will complete my top 10 players 25 and under in the NBA right now. If you disagree with anything, go ahead and let me know down in the comments down below. If you did enjoy this video, hit the like button and subscribe, and turn post notifications on so you never miss a video like this or like my other type of videos, college football, NBA history videos, anything that I create on this channel. If you turn post notifications on, you will be notified every time I post. Thank you guys for watching this one. I'll see you all next time. Peace.